This module describes the user interface design of Microsoft Dynamics NAV. We are going to discover where we can find the information and how information is presented so we can perform our daily tasks. Let's have a look at an overview. So I'm going to start by explaining the different components of the user interface in Dynamics NAV. Then we're going to explore the navigation pane and that we can use to find different screens in the application. I'm also going to explain list pages and other types of pages that are going to differ in the way that information is going to be presented. We have the list page, we have the card page, for example. But I'm also going to spend some time to explain the role center and actually the role-tailored user interface design of Microsoft Dynamics NAV. In this lesson, I will introduce you to the back and forward button and the address bar and the search functionality. At the top of the user interface, we will see these components. There we will find the back and forward button, the address bar, and the search. Let's have a look in the application. So here I have launched Microsoft Dynamics NAV, and as you can see on the top of the window, we have an address bar. So depending where I am navigating in the application, for example, if I go here to the customer list, this will be reflected here in the address bar. I can see where I started from. I can also see if I click on the little arrow and the other actions or windows that I can open. And I also have the possibility to double-click inside of the address bar and also, for example, navigate to another window. To be able to navigate, we can also make use here of the travel buttons or the back and forward buttons. And we can go back, we can go forward. It's very similar than actually the user interface that you have already experienced in a browser. Then here at the right top of the application, there is also a search bar. I can, for example, type in the first letters of a word, and the system will recognize what I'm looking for. In this case, I've entered COS, so I will be able to go to any page or report or part of the application which is related to customers. We'll be able, for example, here to click on them, and the list will be opened. Then I can see the part in the address bar here on top. I can go back to receivables, and I can also use the back and forward buttons to navigate in the application. So in the beginning, this will be your main tools that you're going to use to navigate inside of the application. And you will also be able to see where you came from and where you are going to. In this lesson, I will introduce you to the application menu. You'll be able to find the application menu at the upper left side of the ribbon. And when you click on it, you will be able to see the menu. You will be able to see a drop-down list with several options. Let's have a look in the application. Here in the application, if we go to the left top of the window, you can see the little button on which we can click, and then a drop-down menu is opened. Here in this drop-down menu, we have several options, and we can perform several tasks, and depending on where I am in the application, and the options might differ. So this little menu here is called the application menu. Let me introduce you right now to the ribbon. The ribbon is a command bar which organizes a program's features into a series of tabs at the top of a window. Using a ribbon, like in Microsoft Office, it will increase discoverability of features and functions. It will enable you to quicker learn the program, and it will make users feel very familiar with the user interface. Let's have a look at an overview of how we can use the ribbon. So the ribbon is actually structured in different areas. And we have different tabs in the ribbon. Each tab can consist out of a number of groups, and inside of these groups we will find the different actions, as you can see here. This is a tab. For example, we have Home, Actions, Navigate, Report, and so on, depending on where we are in the application. The group New contains a number of actions on which we can click, and we have different groups that we can use. And an action is an individual icon on which we can click to perform an action inside the application. Let's have a look now in the application itself. So I am positioned myself here on the customer list, and on top we will notice the ribbon where we have a Home, Actions, Navigate, and Report. And in each of these different groups and menus, we have different actions on which we can click. Now I will go to, for example, home, and as you will notice, the actions on top here in the ribbon are going to be different. I can click on the tabs. We also have the possibility to do a right click and we can collapse the ribbon, for example, and then later we can expand it again. Depending on where we are in the application and the kind of page that I'm opening, we're always going to see a personalized ribbon with the actions that are valid for the page or the application area, which I am right now. In this case, I am here in a posted sales shipment, so I will be able to see all of the actions which are related to sales shipments. And the ribbon is very easy to use. If you are already familiar with, for example, Microsoft Office applications, you will find it very easy to get started and to find your way inside of the ribbon. Let's have a look now at a very important concept called the navigation pane. The navigation pane appears on the left side of the user interface. You will use the navigation pane to switch between different menus, for example, home and departments. Let's have a look in the application itself. So here on the left side, we'll be able to see the navigation pane. By default, if I launch the application, I will actually be in the home navigation pane. As you can see, there is also a posted documents button on which I can click. And then the menu here is refreshed and displays different actions. So from within the posted documents, we'll be able to navigate here to a series of different types of posted documents. If I go back to home, I'm going to see the home items, for example, the most important actions that I will perform depending on my profile. And we'll be able to see a list of customers, items, journals, and so on. Now, usually besides home and posted documents, there is also departments. If I'm going to click on departments, we're also going to see a completely different list of actions, which will allow you to navigate towards the complete application. All of the actions will be available here in departments. But if I go to home and if I go to posted documents, we will have the actions available and that are bound to our kind of profile. Now, it's not always only home and posted documents. There can be more activity buttons. For example, posted documents is an example of an activity button. And we can have many more in between home and posted documents. Let me introduce you to the status bar. The status bar is shown at the bottom of the application window, and it shows three interesting fields. Let's have a look. Here at the bottom, we can see the status bar. It shows the current company name. It also shows the date. And there is also the username which we can see. Now, the company name, I can also go into the application menu and I can select a company, as we can see here. Or I can go into the status bar and I can double click and the same window will open. So I can remain within my database, but then I can navigate to another company where I have different information. The second information shown here is the work date. If I double click it, I will be able to change the date. And the work date is actually an interesting concept in the application. By default, it will be the current date, but I can go back in time, for example. So within the application, the work date now has been set to a date in the past, which will, for example, allow me, if I'm working in the finance department, to post invoices in the previous accounting periods. So knowing how to work and how to set the work date is a very important concept in the application. Then besides the work date and the company name, we will also be able to see the name of the user who's currently logged on in the application. The Role Center. The first thing you see when you open Microsoft Dynamics NAV is the Role Center. You can see the Role Center as your personal homepage that provides a quick overview of all of your tasks and transactions related to your job role. Let me provide you an overview of the typical components of a Role Center. So in the Role Center page, we are going to find all of the information related to all of the actions that we need to perform. So you can consider it as a central point for all of the information and actions. There are different parts on a Role Center, and depending on the Role Center on which you are, you will be able to use these parts. For example, you have activities, charts, notifications, lists, links to online information, a job queue, and a report inbox. Let me show you this in the application itself. Here I am in the application, and I've opened the Role Center of the Sales Order Processor. Now, depending on your role, you will be assigned a profile in the application, and the profile is actually linked to the role center on which you are. So if you are a different type of user, then you will land on a different role center page. What we see here on the role center page are different parts. We can expand and we can collapse these parts. And the parts that we see right now are the ones which are typically used by someone who is actually charged with the task to process a role sales orders. So let's have a look here in the activity pane. In the activity pane, I will have a very quick view on my daily tasks and the documents which are, for example, ready to be released, sales orders which need to be shipped. And actually, an activity pane is made up of queue icons, and they can give me an indication on the amount of work that I have to perform. Then here on the right side, we can also see, for example, a chart. The chart can also be completely customized and will be displaying information related to the activities in the company. Another example is the My Items. If I'm working with specific items, I'm always going to use the same items, and I can create my own list of items that I work with on a regular basis. It will be very simple, able to select the items in here, and click on the OK button, and they will be assembled here in the My Items lists. I can do the same thing, for example, with my customers. That depends on if the action is available here in the application or not. As you can see here at the bottom, and there is also my customers, which will work in the same way than My Items. There is also a report inbox. What we are also able to do every time that I'm going to run a report in the application. We take the example of the customer top 10 list. We are able to run or preview or print the report, but I'm also able to schedule this report, and then it will be generated automatically in a format and on a schedule that I define myself. And once I have done this, I can go into my role center, and here in the report inbox, I will get a list of all of the reports which have been executed. And from in here, I will be able to run a report or to also have a look at the unread reports and so on. So it's a very nice overview and inbox on the reports. My notifications will allow me to get a view on all of the notifications that have been sent to me. For example, I can go into a customer, create a notification for this customer and send it to someone else in the organization. And that person will see that message arriving in the My Notifications window. You will be able to see the message and will also be able to link back to the customer. So here in my role center, I have different parts available. And depending on the profile that I am using, we will be able to see more or less parts in the role center itself. Let's review the module about the user interface. So I started by explaining the user interface of the application, and that we have the travel button, the address bar, the search functionality. And there are different types of pages. We have the application menu. There's also the role center. And in every type of page of the application, we're going to notice the same building blocks, the same user interface experience. That's why it's very important to get to know the user interface, so you know how you can work with the application and where you can find the information and how all of the windows are actually related.